Here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Music Forward's Industry Session. My name is DeMarco White, and I'm your Music Forward host for today. For those of you joining us for the first time, Music Forward is a national nonprofit organization inside the House of Blues and Live Nation family with a mission to transform young lives, inspire careers, and champion a more inclusive music industry. We provide artists and career development programs to inspire the next generation of leaders and innovators. So to check out our programs, please find out more in the links in our chat. We are excited, as always, to bring you another industry session where we connect our communities to the music industry to discuss careers and trends. Today's industry session is super special because it's brought to you in collaboration with Columbia College and their Audio Engineering Society. So I actually will be joined by our co-moderator, Oliver, who will come on screen and introduce himself and tell us a little bit more about AES and this collaboration. Hi, Oliver, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, DeMarco?
I'm doing very well. Excited to be moderating with you today.
Me too. Hi,
Awesome.
everyone.
Go ahead.
My name is Oliver Elliott Rigsby, and I will be co-moderating, as you've just heard, with DeMarco today. And I'm a senior at Columbia College and president of the Columbia College Audio Engineering Society. At AES, we seek to promote and foster interdisciplinary collaboration, engage in open conversation about industry professions with industry professionals, and cultivate a community of individuals passionate about the work they do and the society in which they do it. This semester, AES has partnered with the Career Center to produce the An Inclusive World series. The series is normalizing honest conversation about diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the audio and music industries for students pursuing careers in those fields. We are honored to have partnered with Music Forward to produce this event as the second event in the An Inclusive World series. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be here with us. And today's session, we have the Chicago native Kidd Kenn and his publicist and director of media relations, Cheyenne Beam, joining us, who I want to bring out to the stage because today's conversation will focus on their journey as a team and how Kidd Kenn has been able to build his confidence as an artist locally and globally. And so Ken, Cheyenne, please join us on screen. Hi. Oh, we just added a light out of nowhere. I love it. So for our audience, I just want to do some brief introductions before we dive in deep into today's conversation. So Cheyenne, please give us who you are and a little bit about your background.
Hi guys, thanks for having us. I'm Cheyenne Beam, Director of Media Relations at Island Records, where I've been for the past 3.5 years. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, but I currently live in Brooklyn, New York. So yeah, we're excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yes, and Kidd Kenn, as we know, you don't need an introduction, but for my sake, can you please introduce yourself to your current fans and gaining some new fans today?
Hey everybody, my name is Kidd Kenn from Chicago, Illinois. I'm a sound recording artist to Island Records from Chicago down in LA. Stop me.
Yes, thank you. So let's get right into it, right? Because we're going to have a lot of questions coming at the both of you. And so I want to be able just to get to really the heart of today's conversation. And how I like to start these conversations is really unpacking sort of your journey and how you got here. And I want to unpack it separately and then figure out how you all were able to join with each other and sort of make this dynamic team that has allowed you to really be successful in your career, Ken. So Ken, starting with you, like when were you introduced to music in your life and how did you know, or when did you know that you were going to be this extraordinary and talented rapper?
I was introduced to music at a very young age, probably like everybody else. I was just hearing it everywhere. And I didn't know I was gonna be like this, but I had a thought in my head because I remember myself telling my mother, like, one day I want to be a rapper. Like, that's what I want to do. And I just remember I was real young and she was asking me, like, do you sure you really want to be a rapper? I want to be a rapper. And after that, I started doing what I had to do to get to where I wanted to be.
Yeah. Did you see any or do you remember looking at any rappers or growing up being inspired by any rappers or any specific music videos or songs that were like, yeah, I want to do that?
It was Nicki all the way. It was Nicki all the way, period.
We'll have a conversation offline about Nicki and her antics. Cheyenne, same question for you too. Like, it's similar to Ken, did you always know that you wanted to be in entertainment and be sort of on this publicist side, or is it something that you learned later on in life?
I don't think so. I think I've always loved entertainment and music, and I kind of grew up in a musical household, and I've always, been involved in organizations musically. But I don't think I ever thought about it as a career until maybe in college. I started off thinking like, how you grow up and you tell your parents like, oh, I want to be a doctor. So you just kind of follow that journey to becoming a doctor. And then as you grow up, your like interests change. So I kind of experienced that journey where like my passions and my interests changed a lot as I grew older. And for me, I think I tapped into more of the creative side and wanting to work in music really after like deep in college. I was like 3 years into a pre-med major. Yeah.
Wow, you and I have a similar sort of journey in terms of our college careers. Not that I was pre-med. Something that Oliver and I were talking about before we hopped on here was just we were so curious, specifically for the both of you, but Ken specifically, like take us on this journey of being in your room, listening to Nikki do what she does, and saying I want to be a rapper to now I'm a signed artist. And I'm making music on a higher scale. Take us to that and through that journey.
So basically how it really all started was, yes, of course, I always loved Nikki, but before I wanted to actually try to do it, I just basically paid attention to her real good and studied how she did it to, guide myself, basically. So I used her journey to guide myself. And I just started like doing freestyle videos. I'm like, okay, one day I came home, I was in like 6th grade. I came home from school. I'm like, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm tired of doing this other stuff. I'm tired of getting up going to school. I'm gonna be a rapper. So I just started writing raps and I was posting them on social media. And like I was on and off with it at first because like I had mixed emotions. I'm like, I ain't know if they was gonna take me serious or not, or if it was just something that I was doing. But I kept doing it, and like one time I started back up doing it from when I like slowed down from it, and like the response I got was amazing. So I'm like, oh yeah, now it's on.
We I feel like I'm so curious about this, and Oliver, please jump in here to follow these questions. But we're just looking at your Instagram and seeing your brand and how just like sort of concise and how cohesive it all is, and there's really a true authenticity to who you are, and it comes through your Instagram. And so I think I want to pivot just a little bit and talk really about how you were able to grow that following, and what do you credit that to?
I just was being consistent, knowing my followers, knowing my fan base, knowing what they liked it, what they wanted to see from me, and I just gave it to them and kept giving it to them. That's how I've been building it so far.
Yeah, and kind of going off that, so Ken, as you kind of gained more traction, did what you shared on social media change at all? Like how much you wanted to share with people?
No, not really. Not really. It's the same. I want to show them more, but it's a time and a place.
That's fair. I mean, I feel like that's something that is something good to know, right? Where like I want to, it looks to be like you're sharing everything and all of you on Instagram, but what you're sort of saying to us now is like it looks like that, but there's a part of me that I sort of just keep for me, and I think that's important for young artists specifically to know like you don't have to put it all out there. You can manage how much your fans get to know about you and still be authentic in that way. I think you've done a really good job in doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cheyenne, being a part of this team and sort of focusing on the publicity side of it, what are some things that you've seen that Ken has been successful in terms of being able to manage his brand in social media? And what are some challenges that you have seen that you'd like for other young artists to be aware of?
I think that one of the things that like struck me immediately was just his authenticity. Because now I've been working with him from the very beginning, and I remember first being introduced to him before he was even signed, and like going to a show of his, and just immediately seeing this like young kid who's like super confident, and he knew exactly what he wanted. So I think for me, it's just been over the past 2.5, almost 3 years, just seeing his growth and evolution, not only as an artist, but as a person too. So, and also just watching him like grow and become more tapped into the business, aspects of things, and like his lyrics and just how he's grown musically. So just a complete like 360 evolution has been like super exciting for me to watch. And he's someone who I'm like really excited about the future of his career.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of going off that, Ken, how do you handle like how external expectations sometimes may challenge your need to be authentic in your work and just to yourself?
Can you say that again?
How do you handle external expectations that might kind of challenge your need to be authentic to yourself and in your work? So like just, any external factors that may seem to oppose your just need to be authentic.
Yeah. So go ahead, Ken.
Know what you was gonna say?
I was just thinking, Oliver, when you asked that question, it sounds more like even just being signed to a label and thinking like you had all this freedom before, and then when you're signed, we know that there's certain expectations that your team or your label might have of you, or that your fans might have of you. And so, how do you sort of appease so many different parties that have their hands, for lack of a better phrase, in your pocket, but also continue to be true to who you are and your fans?
I just feel like I try to I
would chime in. I think for me, it goes back to him like authentically being himself. Like I don't think the expectations ever really phase him. I think it's a team effort. It's a collaborate. Like we work together so closely. He's very much in control of like what you guys see and like the branding, and we're here to support him. And I think I don't think he's ever been fazed by the expectations. I think in any room he's gonna walk in and he's gonna be Kidd Kenn. So it is what you see is what you get.
Yeah, that
what
was.
Cheyenne
I think that shines through just through your music videos and through your social media, and just through the first time I'm meeting you, I was like, oh, he knows who he is, and like this is who he will always be. And so, and I just really envy that about people in general. We talked about when you and I met a week ago, I think it was. We talked about your confidence, and I was always so curious, like sort of where does it come from? Because I feel like even Cheyenne just sharing, coming into your junior year of college, knowing what you want to do, like it's rare that people sort of find themselves and are confident in who they are as a person so young. And so tell us the story of like where your confidence comes from. And I know you shared a little bit about your grandmother, so I want you to share that with our audience too.
Yeah, so where did I get my confidence from? Most of it was from my grandmother, because we was real close, and she was always one of the closest people that told me to always be myself, and don't let what nobody else's opinions phase you. Don't ever do that. And I just did it and ran with it, and it got me far.
Yeah. Has there ever been a time where your confidence has gotten you into trouble?
Yeah, in school.
Fair, same. That's fair, and I think that it's always important to be authentic, like Cheyenne is saying, but it's also just the confidence has to come from within, and if it doesn't, then no one else is going to believe in you, and so you have to sort of set the tone for what everyone else wants to feel. We're going to take a question from our audience right now, and so we've invited some of our participants to ask questions from Columbia. And so I want to bring that first person onto the screen to make some of this magic happen.
Period.
Or no. And I'm going to, there we are. Nalini!
Hi. First question. Hi, how are you, Kidd Kenn?
Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Nalini. I am the programming data intern here at Music Forward. So my question for you is, if you can collaborate with any company, who would it be and why?
If I could collab with any company, who will it be and why? I would love to collab with Fenty. First, because it's Black owned. Second, because I love Rihanna. And third, because I love makeup.
Mm.
I love
So
it.
those are the
Awesome.
three.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah. I feel like that go ahead, Oliver.
Yeah, I feel like that ties into oh, where'd Kid
No,
go?
keep going.
Oh, hold on, sorry. Oh.
um, yeah, that's a great answer. So do you shop a lot with that company? And I want to pivot a little bit going off of what you just answered. When did you start kind of experimenting with makeup and how was that received?
Mm.
It's been a year. I started wearing makeup around the middle of last year.
Mhm.
Not even a year, like around May, it would be a year.
Yeah, it's interesting because first of all, your face is beat to the gods, and every photo, everything you see,
Right.
it's beat. And I was like, wow, where is he shopping, and how can I get into that? But it goes into further just talking about identity, and I think a huge part of this conversation and why we decided to partner with Columbia in this Inclusive World series is because Music Forward is all about bringing in young artists and young people and really encouraging them to be themselves. And so I just want to know from you specifically, like, how do you feel like your identity as a gay Black male either influences your music or influences the way that you just navigate the industry?
Okay, my bad. My phone is blowing up right now. I am.
It's okay. We can't hear anything. If you could ignore that for now and give us everything, we would have
Okay,
loved it.
come on, because
Okay.
what was I saying?
Identity wise, how do you feel like your identity as a gay Black male influences your music, or how do you feel like it influences your music?
I feel like me being a gay Black male influenced my music because it just proved that anything could be done.
Yeah.
Literally, like once upon a time, you wouldn't even see a gay Black male being a gay Black male. So for
Right.
me to see a gay Black male doing music is something very
It's unique.
unacceptable, right?
Yeah.
It's unique. So that's what really pushes everything. Because it's like, if this can happen, this can happen. So it's like a
Yeah.
domino effect.
There's something to be said about that. And Cheyenne, I'm curious to get your thoughts here, because it was a bit sort of taboo in the early spaces to have someone identify as a gay Black male, but also just be so confident in who they were and so forward with that. And so we saw, I mean, and you let's sort of collab and throw out some names here, but like we've seen sort of Frank Ocean make attempts at it and do well at it. We're sort of fast forwarding to now. We've got oh, he's not. Sometimes I put people in my mind that aren't and want them to be. But we also see Little Nas X right now, and that's happening, right? And he is so unapologetically himself. It sort of has a great marketing team behind him, but is very forward with his identity. And so, being on the publicity side, sort of what's important to you to know or to have to be able to help advocate for Kidd Kenn and someone of his identity?
I think what's different about Kidd Kenn and like some of the artists that you named and a lot of artists out here is that from day one, he's always been himself. So he was introduced to the world as this young Black gay artist from Chicago. But I think it's important to, because he's, you know, what's really different is he's hip hop. His lyrics are so hard hitting and they're raw. And I always say that his lyrics, they feel like conversations that would normally be private, you know, like it's, when it's a public conversation, it feels taboo. And so I think it's important to, you know, on the publicity side, to allow him to be himself, to make sure he's in a wide range of areas, not, you know, make sure that he's in the LGBTQ space and make sure, you know, that also he has that core hip hop following and that people know he's an artist who's an amazing writer and just young creative. So just making sure that the story is not one lens, like from one lens. It's, you know, it's there's a wide palette, and so making sure everything is covered.
Yeah. Ken, have there been any spaces where you felt like in the industry specifically that have been difficult to navigate as a young emerging artist?
Not really.
Not
No.
really. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Everything's just sort of been smooth sailing for you from start to finish. I love that.
No, literally.
Cool. So most, go ahead, Oliver.
Yeah, just to go off that, change gears a little bit. So from your viewpoint then in the industry, what challenges do you specifically notice for LGBTQ artists, specifically LGBTQ people of color, that they're faced with?
Just being, I feel like we're overlooked because of our sexuality. Like I feel like I could drop the hottest song with the hottest video, but the first thing people go say is he's gay.
Mm. Mm.
And it's like when you're listening to someone else who's not of my kind, you don't say he's straight or she's straight. You don't look at that. You look at what you're looking at.
Right.
They don't do that.
You take it for the content.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like, when you said that, what made me think of is like, because for me, as someone who identifies as a Black gay male, when they're like, "Oh, you're gay," I'm like, "Yes, like I'm happy. Like I'm ecstatic, right?" Do you feel like they're missing out on sort of the words of the music or just who you are as a person because they're so focused on that part of your identity? And do you feel like at the end of the day, you lose fans because of that?
I don't even feel like I lose fans because of it, but I just feel like for the people that don't know me and that's like confused, be too stuck on that instead of the actual talent and the hard work that I put into my craft.
Yeah. Cheyenne, when you're sort of pitching Ken for different opportunities or working to push things forward, how does his identity play a role in those conversations? Are you finding it something that people are gravitating towards? Like, yes, we love this about him and we want more people to be like that, or are you finding it like sort of having to be in a convincing space?
No, I mean, Press loves Kidd Kenn, so he's always from the beginning we haven't had any issues there. I think it's just like I said, making sure that he's in those right places, but that he's in, multiple spaces at once. And so I haven't really had to convince anyone. It's just been educating them, and also just doing research on my end. So finding out who, what editor and writer makes sense for me to have a conversation about Kidd Kenn with. And seeing like, are there any artists similar that these editors and writers cover, and just making sure that, there's synergy and it all makes sense.
Thank you for that. Oliver, you're up next.
Yeah, so Ken, kind of going back to your creative process, watching your music videos, they're just so creative and just so, uniquely and authentically yourself. And I was wondering, do you storyboard your videos and like how that process works? Do you work really closely with the director just to make sure that your vision really comes to life?
So yeah, how I come up with my videos is I listen to the song while I sleep and I wake up with a lot of ideas. And me and the director, whoever I'm shooting a video with, we just use both ideas and put it together.
That's awesome.
What is that process like? Do you because I had the pleasure of watching your videos, which I thoroughly enjoy. I forget the song, but I will share it with you after this. What is that process in terms of collaborating with other artists? Do you look for something specific when you're looking to add someone onto one of your songs or to collaborate in a video, or sort of describe to us that process?
When I'm working with other people, I'm working with other people because I truly like them as a person and as an artist. So when I work with them, I want to see them basically be 100% themselves.
Yeah, I think so. And again, that's all about finding people who match your brand and what you're about in your message. And I think it's important for the young artists on this call to also sort of have that focus. So again, so that their brand is always being represented in the correct way. I want to take some questions from our attendees from today. And so Bryce Harper asked, Ken, specifically, who are some people that inspire you to create music and keep pushing forward in your career? I know that you mentioned Nicki earlier, but are there any other artists that you sort of look to and learn from?
Nicki, I love Michael Jackson. I love that. I'm a big Michael Jackson fan. And just really like everybody, like just me growing up seeing everybody coming from nothing to something inspired me to do it, because I'm like, okay, I'm nothing, I know I could be something.
Yeah, it's nice when you get to see your idols and see how they've grown and you're able to learn from them, but also sort of adapt, learn from them, but also take some of the things that they've been created and make it your own. So it's really good to have idols and people who inspire you in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we have a question from Jory, also for Ken. What was the transition like from posting freestyle videos to making original work and developing your own sound?
Oh, that's a good question.
It was a transition, because it's like a freestyle video was just a quick freestyle. It's like a song, it's a song. You gotta, it's so different. It wasn't really hard. It was easy, it was fun, but it took time. I can say it took time, and now I'm doing it,
So can you share with us a little bit, sort of like, if you had to compare a rap that you wrote either this week or this year compared to something that you wrote back in 2016, what would you say would be the biggest difference between the pieces of art?
My delivery.
Say more.
My delivery, I feel like everything. My delivery, my wordplay, just me being in front of a camera, how I'm speaking it.
Yeah. How did you work? Go ahead.
I'm done now.
How did you work to craft those skills? Like, how did you work to make your delivery better? How did you work to sort of rap in front of a camera? What I'm trying to get here is, like, I want the young artists on the call to be able to sort of take some of these skills and be able to use them so that they can have the same success that you have.
I just basically looked at my favorite artist, which
Mhm.
was everybody we know.
Mhm.
I looked at her and I just basically like literally practiced. Like, I don't even really know how to put it, but I practiced. I liked how she came up with her flows and how she could rap fast. So I'll rap her verse as much as I can until I knew it literally down pack as if I was her, and I just did it with my own work.
Yeah.
I tried that good with like my breath control and just me putting words together, me listening to how she did it. I just did it in my way.
That's a good tip, right? What I'm hearing you say is that, like, sort of being able to listen to an artist that raps fast or has a certain flow, and then be able to, in a repetitive motion, like repeat it over and over, so that you're used to that cadence, and then you just put your own words to that same cadence, and now you're sort of rapping at the same speed. That's actually really smart.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to take a question from our audience, who is from actually Colombia. And so it's on screen. Hi.
Hello. So my name is Kirsten. Sorry, my dog is making a lot of noise. My name is Kirsten. I go to Columbia College Chicago. And my question is, as an artist, how do you manage and maintain your mental health and your mental wellness? And do you have any tips that you can share with us?
As an artist, how I maintain my mental health and mental awareness is I know how to balance it. I know how to balance it real good, I could say. And I know myself, I know myself, and I don't think me being an artist or anything that I do will tarnish that or mess with that.
What do you do specifically? Are you meditating? Do you go on runs? Is music your sort of mental break? Like, what are you doing specifically that helps you sort of maintain your mental and manage your mental health?
It's music, and I talk to myself, because when you talk to a real person, you talk to a real person. I'm a real person.
I love that. Thank you so much for your question.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering it.
Thank you so much.
Cheyenne, we always have this conversation when we're talking about mental health in these panels, and we always ask just what is the responsibility of the artist team to help to manage that artist's mental health. And just to add more context to that, we talk about how there's been this stigma. I think it's a 27 Club. I might be misquoting it, but like just how artists aren't really managing their physical and mental health. And then when you find out whether they've overdosed or they've exhausted or they're going to depression or have anxiety, and then you wonder like, how are the people behind them not catching the warning signs? What do you feel is a responsibility as a publicist or as a part of the Kidd Kenn's artist team that you have to helping him manage his physical and mental health?
I think personally for me, a big part of it is actually being passionate about the person. I think, we come to work every day to do a job. And so there's a difference between just going about your daily routine and doing a job and being passionate about the music or being passionate about the artist. But when you have a certain relationship with that person, you can establish a trust and a transparent line of communication. And so I feel like when your team is passionate about you as a human being, they care about your well-being. And so you don't want to see someone going down a dark hole who you care about, no matter the situation. So if, an artist is having a bad day, you check on them, make sure they're okay. If they need a break, give them a break. There's plenty of tools and resources these days that, can help with mental health and stress and anxiety, and all those things are readily available. So I think those are, super important. It's just having a team around you that actually cares about you as a person.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and Ken, if you would talk a little bit about kind of the process of finding a team that you really fit in with, and then just the importance of having a strong support system within your team.
Basically, it's all was just trusting people and like vibes. I got vibes and like first impressions. With Island and like with the team I got at Island, it was like it's genuine. I feel like it was genuine. Like how me and Cheyenne relationship is more than just work. It's an actual relationship, and that's what I be looking for: somebody to grow with and work with instead of looking just for one thing.
Yeah, you talk about growth. Where do you see yourself growing? Like, where do you see yourself in the next sort of what's the ultimate goal for you as an artist? Is it I want 10 Grammys? Is it I'm performing at the Super Bowl? What is that glass ceiling that you're hoping to hit?
It's all of it. I feel like, it's the awards, it's everything that comes with an artist, of course. But it's I just want people to remember me as a baddie, and I did it. I did everything, and I'm gonna do everything.
Yes, I feel like you're on your way. Another question we got from, I think it's, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, I believe it's Baden from our audience. What has it been like working with bigger artists like Cupcake and Sophie?
It was lit. It was lit. Cupcake was a whole vibe. It was unreal, but it was lit because it's like I grew up listening to Cupcake. I knew a Cupcake before I worked with her. So it was like, okay. It just shows you that anything is possible, and I always work. Like work. You never know what might happen.
Yeah, how, and Cheyenne, or can you both answer this, how did that opportunity sort of present itself? I feel like as a lot of emerging artists are looking to work with sort of bigger artists to help grow their audience. So how does an opportunity like that present itself to you?
Well, with the me and Cupcake situation, she followed me on I retweeted one of her videos on Twitter, and she followed me on Twitter. So we like connected there, and my team reached out to her and she was down for it 100%.
Yeah, Cheyenne, anything to add there?
No, I think sometimes it's artist to artist relationship, and then sometimes your team has relationships that the artist may not have, and they can kind of bridge that gap for you. So I guess in this case, he Cupcake and him they already had a relationship together.
Yeah. Cool.
Another question to both of you. Do either of you ever get starstruck, especially working with these bigger artists?
No, I don't. I feel like the only starstruck I would be is from Nicki. Can't nobody show starstruck me.
Now Beyonce?
Beyonce, okay, I give it to Beyonce. Only, okay, so it's a couple people. It's Beyonce, Rihanna, and Nicki. But
Okay.
other than that, I'm
Yeah.
looking at the rest of the girls like the rest of the girls.
Same.
Same.
But then there's Beyonce. Yeah.
And there's Beyonce. I feel like we're all celebrities in our own right, so we can't really get starstruck. But I get it. I'm curious about sort of when you're either working with upcoming artists or when you're just talking to emerging artists like you are today. What would you tell them? Sorry, let me rephrase this. For struggling artists in Chicago who are looking to either find their footing or grow their audience, what are some resources that you would share with them, or what's some advice you'd give them?
I would tell them to be consistent as possible. If you want to do music, you gotta sleep, breathe, eat music, and just be yourself. People like you for being yourself, not following a trend, make the trend. And that's really it. Because I feel like the more consistent you be, the more success comes. The more you be yourself, the more people love you, and everything comes. So,
Cheyenne, is there anything specific that that you look for in young artists before you sort of bring them on to your team, or begin to do publicity for them?
I think vision, just having a vision for yourself. That way you come in with, kind of a direction versus, us trying to figure it out. I feel like once an artist already has, somewhat of an idea or of their brand or of where they see themselves in, 3 months, 6 months, 6 years, it really helps us, put together a solid campaign to kind of help build this artist. So yeah, for me, I really appreciate when an artist comes in and they know who they are. They know what kind of music they want to make. They know kind of where they see themselves in a few years.
Yeah, I like that. I think vision is very important. And it's also important to know, like, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to know what direction you want to go, and sort of the pieces will fall in place. Ken, being that, I mean, I'm a suburban Chicago, because we have to clarify now that there's other Chicagoans on the call, because you know how that conversation goes.
I know how that goes.
Yeah. And Oliver, also, you're in Chicago as well. But so I grew up in the burbs, and then went to college in Chicago, so I'm familiar with the city. And so I'm wondering, just were there any specific venues or mentors that really helped you supported you in your early career? Like, did you go from sort of performing at your school to performing at the House of Blues, or were there other smaller venues that sort of helped you gain traction and build a following?
No, I feel like if anything, it was the schools, because I used to do like homecomings and like I could come up to like the pep rallies and stuff. So it was really the schools. I went to the schools every week, a new school, and I got to live with the kids. And I feel like that got me closer to like my supporters and my fans.
That's like going where your audience and demographic is and sort of meeting them there. I think that's important. I think it's really smart to do as well. Sorry, Oliver, I know you have a question as well. I just want to follow up on that.
So Ken, as an artist, how do you measure success?
What you mean?
Like, is it like you wrote a song and you're really proud of it, and then like that you feel a lot of success from that, or is it more like, oh, I got a really big paycheck from this gig? Yeah, along those lines. Anything?
I still don't know what you mean a little bit.
Yeah, it's sort of along the lines of, how do you know that you're doing well, right? Do you measure?
Okay.
Yeah.
I know I'm doing well by just seeing. I look at my Instagram followers and just seeing like the numbers of more people rocking with me. The bigger the numbers, the bigger the fan base, the bigger the better.
Yeah. we have a question from Nalini in the audience for you, Cheyenne, specifically. And what systems do you put in place to ensure the success of Kidd Kenn? So if he's saying that success is measured by sort of that Instagram following and audience engagement on your end, what systems do you put in place to make sure that you're either tracking it or ensuring that that's happening?
I mean, digital and Instagram social media is not really my focus, but I think how we could tie it into just like the press side is like social media takeover. So a lot of outlets, they allow like artists to come on and take over their social handles. So their Instagram or their Twitter, or they'll do Instagram live Q&A. So it kind of taps, if they have a bigger audience. So if, like, for instance, I'm just throwing out a name. If an MTV has, 1 million followers and the artist has 10,000, then he taps into that bigger audience. And then also, just when there are digital interviews or print features that roll out, making sure there's a big social media push, because a lot of people do get their news from social media. So making sure those links are shared and those images are shared, and just and making sure that the tags are correct, so that they're tagging him. So when people see the article and they're not familiar with the artist, they can hit that tag, and then it's easy to just follow him. So that's a way that I tie it into my world, but social media is kind of a different space.
Yeah. Ken, has there been a time where you put out, like, whether it's a photo or a video or a music video, and it hasn't done as well as you wanted it to do? How do you sort of handle challenges like that? How do you handle hits like that? Like, I built up all this momentum, I worked really hard, and it's just not being received in the way that I wanted to. Like, darn.
I'd be like, fuck. I'd be like, forget it. But I say that, but I just keep pushing it. Cause it's like, yeah, that post probably ain't do good, but let me post it again. Probably do good on the next post. And it happened like that before. It was one time, it was with the freestyle video. I posted the first part of the video, and it did good. Like the first that they even knew that it was a song. And it did, but at the end of the day it dropped. I posted the video again, and it didn't get a lot of engagement. And I was like, oh. But then I posted the next day, and it got twice as much that engagement. So I'm like, okay, I'm good now. I'm back Gucci. You feel me?
Yeah. Why do you think that was?
Huh?
Why do you think that was?
Cause the Instagram and these apps, they little stuff be messed up, and they need to fix it. That's what they need to.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think it's just, just keep pushing your stuff and just always promoting it. Always promote yourself.
Yeah, cool.
So Ken, I'm curious, just with social media, how much of your time on social media do you feel like is just work? Like you're pushing your stuff out, versus do you ever spend any time just scrolling yourself?
Every time I post is work. I feel like every time I post myself, it benefits me in some type of way. Most of the time I do be just strolling, just looking, but most of the time I be on there looking to see what I'm gonna post next, what's gonna be the next content post.
Gotcha. Do you ever see someone's post that you're scrolling through and just reach out to collaborate with them based on what they post?
No, not really. I'll watch you for a minute. It take more than one posting to get me.
Gotcha.
Yeah. There's a few questions that we have in the Q&A that I want to ask you, but something that just has popped up and has been actually asked by someone on our team is that we know traditionally, and if I'm sharing new information with you, I'm happy to unpack it in this conversation as well. But we know historically, like specifically in the hip hop space, that like it's been historically homophobic, right? And so, like, why do you think that hip hop is sort of ready now to embrace gay rappers or a gay rapper like yourself?
Because I'm here. Who wouldn't be ready for me to accept me?
That's fair. Cheyenne, what are your thoughts here?
No,
too?
But I'm not done. But I really just feel like the times is different now. It's way more accepting. It's way more shown. It's like everywhere you look now, to be honest. It's like you can't look somewhere and not see it. So it's about that time for it to be in hip hop. And I feel like just people in LGBTQ like run a lot, everything. From the hairstylists, the makeup artists, they run everything behind the scenes. So now it's time for one of us to be on the scene.
Yes, well said. I love that. Sean, what are your thoughts here as well? Are you seeing it on your end that more young artists, a part of this community, are popping up, and that the hip hop game is sort of ready for it, or do you think we have still a long way to go?
I think, I mean, we still have a long way to go, but I think, like he said, a lot of people are, more educated on what's happening, and it's not as taboo and uncommon to see, artists coming out and saying that they're gay or they're bisexual or non-binary or whatever the case may be. So I think as people become more educated, they become more accepting, and with different platforms like this one and the panels and different events and different people and influencers and artists with big social followings coming out and speaking out about these things, more people are becoming informed. So
Yeah.
we definitely have a long way to go, but I think we're making strides and progress, and we're headed in a positive and bright direction.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that I'm not sure how to really phrase this, but I feel like people are not so much putting their identities or letting their sexuality be their only identity. It's what I've heard in my experience is that, like, it's not till after the fact where I hear an album and do some research that I know how that artist identifies, whether it's gender based or sexuality based. So I think in the days of sort of having I am a this and a that and a this, doing this are sort of over, and it's just like you're here for the music, not because of I'm gay or I'm this. And so I think that's also what's happening and changing with the times. I want to bring
Correct.
on our last sort of question from our participants. And so Phoebe, if you can come on screen for us.
Hello. So yes, I'm Phoebe. I am the social media producer intern for Industry Sessions. And I have a couple questions for you from both your fans and socials in general. The first one that I have is from Dan_NY88, and he wants to know what would be your dream female collaboration?
Me and Nicki Minaj.
What is it about Nicki that draws you in, that you're obsessed with?
She's a mastermind. I love her business mind. I love her work ethic. I love how she look. I love how she raps. I love Nicki Minaj.
Yeah.
Love it.
She's that girl.
And then I have a couple questions from some LAUSD students. The first one is, throughout the pandemic, what are some hobbies that you have kind of kept up with that have kept you motivated as a musician to keep creating?
Just getting up, listening to my music that I've been creating helps me create more music because I love making good music. One good song pushed me to make another good song.
Love it. And then lastly, you seem to be very confident, but do you ever get performance anxiety? And if so, how do you deal with that?
No, I don't. I used to when I first started performing, but not no more. I feel like once I perform, it's like totally like a regular thing now.
Back in the beginning, how did you cope with it?
My first show, I was so nervous. I wore glasses. But in the middle of the show, like it was a vibe. Everybody was vibing with me. I took the glasses off, threw them. It was lit.
Nice. Love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phoebe.
Great. So Ken, where do you get all of your inspiration from to create your songs? Is it primarily personal experience?
Yes, personal experience. It's me. It's like I get my inspiration from my dream. I dream a lot. I fantasize a lot about a character I call Ken and who I want Ken to be, basically.
I love that. I love that, how the sort of personification of yourself and really the manifestation that you have, and using sort of a dream state to be able to manifest, I think is also amazing. I'm curious, being someone who's from Chicago and moved to LA, it was definitely a transition for me, and I wasn't even in music, right? So and the dream has always been like from artists, right? I gotta make it to LA. That's the land where I need to be. That's where the opportunity is. talk to us about that transition. When did you decide that you wanted to move to LA, and sort of what were some of your successes and challenges in making that transition?
So my plan was to always move out of my mother's house when I turned 18.
Mm-hmm.
And when I turned 18, I told her, look, today's the day. But I didn't know if I wanted to go to Atlanta or LA. Now, my plan, because I always plan my life. So like my plan was to leave Chicago, go to Atlanta once I woke the world up and go to LA, show the girls I'm an LA girl. But I found a nice spot here and I'm like, why not? It's a good opportunity. Let's try it out. So I came to LA and let me tell you, I traveled with like 7, 8 suitcases, big suitcases by myself. Like,
oh my God.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah, I could only imagine. Have you always been sort of this independent? So have you always really just been on your own? I'm going to sort of do for myself and by myself, and those who want to follow can follow. You seem to have this very.
I've always been like that.
Yeah.
Since I was young, since my father stopped picking me up from school in the 3rd grade, I had to learn how to catch the bus from one side of town to the next side of town. And I did it. And after that, I've just been by myself on the road. Going.
Yeah. I hope that you weren't traveling in that Chicago winter, because those buses are rough.
Oh, yes, I was. I was numb. Every part of my body used to be numb.
There's the, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this as well, but the moments where you're standing on the platform and waiting for the bus or the train, and they just have this small heat lamp and you're all just crowded around it like little gnats, like just trying to get this little slice of heat, and then you, again, like Kevin said, you're just numb and you just sort of just.
They didn't even have those at the bus stop. They only had them at like the train.
Right. The bus is more brutal because you're just out there.
Bus, and then it's really messed up when a bus driver used to pass you and keep going. Like, that was really the messed up part.
If running for a bus in Chicago was an Olympic sport, I'd have a gold medal.
I never ran for a bus.
Well,
that's one thing I always tell myself: I would never run. If I missed it, I missed it. I
learned that lesson later on in my life to stop running for buses. But I'm glad that you learned it earlier. I want to, just before we have to wrap up here, I want to know sort of, now I know Cheyenne, as your publicist, would talk to us how you continue to build the rest of your team. Like, you have 2 managers and you've got someone who supports you on the digital marketing side. So talk to us about how you built that team. And I know earlier you talked about looking for people who just going off of vibes, but elaborate more on that.
How did I find my management I got now? Basically, I went through something on my last management and we went our separate ways. Mm-hmm. And God led me to these perfect managers that's just rocking out, that I love very much. And yeah, it's just basically just been, like I said, going with the flow. I just been going with the flow, catching vibes. And if I think it's good, I'm gonna go for it.
What, for our audience, what are some specific things that you think that they should look for when searching for management specifically? Like, again, you mentioned vibes, but is there anything specifically like? Go ahead.
Just somebody that could do something for you, somebody that want to see you do good as a person and see you do good all around. And just somebody that's very genuine. Like, genuine and loyalty is something that I'm very big on, because if you don't got it, you don't got nothing.
Yeah, fair. Cheyenne, do you have any pieces of advice here too? Like, as young artists are looking to build their team, what are the specific things that they should be looking for, specifically when it comes to management?
I think being able to trust and having a transparent, open line of communication with your managers. But I think trust is a really big thing because, they're involved in so many areas of your career. So you want to make sure that you're partnering, and it's a partnership, so you're partnering with someone who you can trust. I feel like that was a big thing for you too, Kidd Kenn. Like, you talked about trust a lot when you were going through the phase where you were looking for a new management. So.
Sorry, Olive, I know we're going to transition to piece of advice, but we just got a question in that I think we have to ask, because I think I asked it to you when I first met you, Ken, which is your hair. and your hair color and the designs. And so where does that come from? How do you pick the colors and designs, and how does that play into your overall image?
The hair and the colors, I've been doing it since before I was rapping. I cut my hair because I used to have hair. I cut my hair and I just started doing it on my head. But how it's become a part of my image is that, I don't know, Ken is very colorful, playful, and he never likes to look the same. So I be trying to like get my hair to match my outfits and stuff like that. And all type of cute stuff. I like to look different. You never know what you go expect.
I love that. I love keep them guessing.
Period.
Yeah.
All right, then just to wrap things up, Cheyenne and Ken, both of you, looking back, what's one piece of advice you would give your younger selves? And what's one piece of advice you have for all of our audience members here today, just going forward?
Piece of advice I would give to the old me is trust the process and keep going, boy. Keep going.
I love that.
The advice I would give to somebody watching is to stay confident, don't let nobody knock you off your square, and keep your eyes on the prize, baby.
I love that. Cheyenne?
I think for me, I've kind of always taken my own advice, and so I don't know, like telling my younger self is maybe just to research a little more and find out, you know, what opportunities are available to you outside of your city. Like me coming from Memphis, I came from a smaller town, so a lot of opportunities that you know, students and people had available to them in bigger cities like New York and LA weren't available to me here. But I think with more research and, you know, just having conversations with people in those areas, I would have been able to kind of tap into that a little earlier. So that would just be my advice.
Yeah, I like that. I think also just as a part of sort of like trying everything, right? And so being someone who just explores everything. And it sounds like both you and Ken have that type of personality where you're always curious. And so you're always just trying to find, like, if you're curious about something, you're going to contact that person or find out more about that thing to learn more about it just for yourself. And that's what allows you both to sort of been able to own your careers and have the success that you've had. And it's brought you to Music Forward to share that insight with our audience. And so I'm thankful to have you both here to share with your audience. Ken, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for working with us. Yes, always. Cheyenne, it has been a pleasure to have you, to meet you. I look forward to what will blossom into a great friendship. And so, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you guys so much for having us, and to Music Forward, to you for facilitating everything and being so communicative, and Oliver too. Thank you so much for everything and putting this together. This has been amazing. I hope that everyone who tuned in learned something.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Oliver, do you, first I want to just shout out the partnership and relationship that we have with Columbia. And you all are just seeing us put together this industry session, but there's been more work that's gone into this where we've been partnering with Columbia on several programs at Music Forward. So special shout out to Oliver and Tiffany who put this together, and a huge shout out to Tom Joyce and that team for just supporting and advising in this space. And Oliver, I want you just to tell us more about what's coming up in the Inclusive World series. I know we've got 2 more sessions.
Yeah, of course. So we're actually partnering again with Music Forward to do another event in this series. And that's, correct me if I'm wrong, DeMarco, tentatively for later in April, I believe the last week.
Yeah, we're looking at an April 29th date for that activation.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's going to be an event similar to this one, and it's going to feature the artist Angel Hayes. Stay tuned for more information on that. And as well, we will also be having an event that will be just through Columbia and with the Career Center and AES, and that's going to be a panel with 3 industry professionals from the audio and music industry, just for an open, honest conversation about what diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility look like in those industries today.
Yes. And as far as on the Music Forward side, again, always, continue to enjoy our programs, click on that link in the chat and join our Music Readiness Series office hours. Come to open mic, that's bi-weekly on Fridays. If you're an artist, if you're an aspiring to be the next Kidd Kenn, if you will, open mic is a place for you to be. And again, Cheyenne, Oliver, Kidd Kenn, thank you all so much for this opportunity to be able to moderate. You made my last industry session pretty remarkable and memorable, so I always will remember this moment. But with that said, please enjoy the rest of your days, and I hope to see you all in the future. Bye.
Thank you.